And around 6:30 p.m. this evening, in an unprecedented move, India and China released a joint statement on disengagement as a line of actual control. China has agreed to complete pullback, but the statement hinting at a larger consensus, perhaps between state leaders. Joining us on the debate at 9 p.m, Aparajita Sarangi, who's the national spokesperson and also a member of the Lok Sabha from the BJP. Welcome, Aparajita. Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, who's a contributor at Republic TV, an expert at international affairs. Ratan Sharda, political analyst and author, joining us on the show this evening. Good evening. Vivek Srivastava, political analyst, joining us live from the national capital. And Syed Asad Abbas, a political analyst, joining us live from Bengaluru this evening. Okay, let me go across first to Dr. Sreeram Chaulia to get a perspective on why and what this statement means. Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, we were talking about it earlier. Some key mentions, reading between the lines, and a mention that I see here of the important consensus of state leaders. It mentions, and I quote, the two sides agree to follow the important consensus of state leaders, continue communication and dialogue, stabilize and control the situation on the ground. So the mention of state leaders and the communication that's underway, I think, is the big takeaway, and the fact that for perhaps the first time, China going on record to put it on paper that they will pull back from the LAC.
Yeah, Niranjan, I think the reference to state leaders is linked to the diplomacy that's been going on for several months. If you recall, Dr. Jaishankar, our foreign minister, had an agreement, a 5-point agreement with Wang Yi, his Chinese counterpart, and this was late last year, and the whole disengagement and de-induction, all these technical terms, essentially to mean to restore the status quo ante, were to happen on the basis of that understanding. And as far as I know, I don't think Prime Minister Modi has directly spoken to Xi Jinping since the crisis began. Yeah. But at various levels, State Council of China, our MEA, Ministry of Defense, I think we have been engaging. So there is a civilian level dialogue of a higher political nature, that has been guiding the whole process. And I think that is where, we did the tough talking. We also placed showed the strategic resolve. And then, of course, our forces on the ground implemented that. And I think the resolve we showed, staying power that we showed, Niranjan, that is why we are now able to bring the Chinese onto some moderate path, because they were so aggressive and belligerent last year. At the beginning of this conflict, they thought that they could just trample on India and they could occupy our land and dictate terms on their perception of LAC. What we did now is we forced them, first of all, to go back several kilometers based on the first engagement, the exchange between South Bank and North Bank that we have done. That's because we proactively did tit for tat and applied pressure. So now, again, the same thing, I think, why Chinese are sounding moderate now. It's one, you cannot trust them. They may have a plan and we should be fully alert and vigilant, should not get complacent. Two, it is the result of the fruit of this civilian military 1-2 punch. India has given the Chinese a civilian military 1-2 punch. Our political leadership has not cowed under Chinese browbeating and pressure. And our military has also given back in the same coin. And that's how we are now in the position
Mr.
of
Chaulia, I just want a simple
question with them.
I would like to question Mr. Chaulia.
Vivek has a question for you. Vivek.
More powerful country like China, we are dealing on the basis of equality.
Mr. Chaulia, there's a question for you. Ask him to cool down. Mr. Chaulia, there's a very big question for you. Till yesterday, we were debating on all the channels, and a point that I was raising time and again was, including on Republic, that the level of talks has been only commander to commander majorly. Okay? And your Ministry of External Affairs and secretary to secretary level talks of the ministries has not happened. Mantralaya level की बातचीत भी नहीं हुई थी. Okay? आप यहाँ पे claim कर रहे हैं that there was a very big, diplomatic victory. It has not been a diplomatic victory. Can you please tell me the dates? आप सुनिए सर, no, अरे भैया सितंबर के बाद ये सब हुआ है. आप कहाँ सितंबर की बात कर रहे हैं? आप मुझे बताइए सर.
आपको लग रहा है कि फौज
सर मेरी बात सुनिए. Listen to me now. Please listen to me very carefully. After September,
civilian leaders.
You don't know China as much as I know China.
And the military is
you don't know China as much as I know China.
only involved in tactical
you
level.
tell me
Tactical
after आप September कह रहे हो only commander to commander level talks have happened. Your Ministry of External Affairs has not been talking at all. And there were no secretary level talks.
Who is
so
doing the strategic planning?
You are misguiding.
It is Mr. Modi and it is Dr. Jaishankar.
External
ये आप डिनाई नहीं कर सकते उनकी तरफ
आप तारीख बताइए सितंबर के बाद
विवेक एंड श्रीराम
This is a matter of national honor. हमने एक कसर नहीं छोड़ी है, एक कसर नहीं छोड़ा है.
विवेक एंड श्रीराम
To strong political leadership. Even the military is acknowledging that.
According to me,
just pull back for a minute. Just 1 minute. Okay, hold on for a second. Shriram, hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. On a lighter note, Vivek. One second, Vivek, on a lighter note. Vivek, hold on. Shriram, I don't know. Both of you have switched sides today. Hold on. Both of you have switched sides. Shriram, both of you have switched sides today. You know, on a lighter note, Vivek, on a lighter note, I'll just have all the guests on the screen. On a lighter note, Vivek, you brought out the dragon. You brought the dragon out of Shriram. The guy, you know, the poor guy, every time he comes on a debate, he just calmly sits and analyzes. The guy never fights and he's shouting today. Okay, that's on a lighter note. I'll have one last minute. I'll give it to Shriram. Shriram, I think the consensus on the debate there's only one consensus, that you can't trust China.
Yeah, Niranjan, we are not trusting China. I think Narendra Modi's approach has always been distrust and keep on verifying. I think we are dealing with them from a position of strength. We have put our best foot forward. We have deployed like never before. The mirror matching that we have done is because of the strong political leadership centered around national security. There is a consciousness for national security. The Chinese thought that they could get us to carry on with the rest of the relationship and we will forgive them for their transgressions. We have not. Incursion, transgression, all those are being reversed. So that's one thing. The second thing is Mr. Ajit Doval, our National Security Advisor, Dr. Jaishankar, they have been on this day and night. Those who are saying that there is no leadership, civilian leadership, have no idea of what is going on behind the scenes. This is just empty talk.
Okay, I don't have time. I just want to give one last comment to Ratan Sharda. He wanted to make a point. I have only 20 seconds. Ratan Sharda.
We also have guests with us, Dr. Sreeram. Very warm welcome on Republic. I would like to ask you that, what do you think the statement which has come, is it strategically revealing not about the Depsang and the hot springs and Gogra which were discussed yesterday, or India and China want to take a little more time to discuss on those issues?
Well, I think it's going to be a long haul. We should be cautious in reading too much into Chinese assurances, and Chinese often do doublespeak, and they have long-term objectives of maintaining pressure on India at different points along the LAC. So if you see the pattern, the Depsang, which is the main bone of contention, they had started this parallel to the Pangong Tso last year. And because they knew that Pangong Tso, ultimately, if the Indians find leverage and push them back there, they have other points on which to bargain with us and to continue to pressurize us. So I think with China, it is indeed a patient game. One has to also keep in mind global situation. After the Biden administration came in the US, the Chinese thought they may have a softer opponent in Washington, but Biden has clarified a harder line. So I think they have become a little more amenable to maybe working out some of their disputes, at least for now. But then there is the weather factor. It is still extremely cold. We cannot discount a hot summer coming back later this year. So that's why, yes, I think Narendra Modi, always our policy of our Prime Minister has been to seek peace through strength. So what we have done this time, both in Pangong Tso and also now with the mirror deployments in Depsang, is to show the Chinese we will not budge 1 inch. Because earlier they used to, make demands in one sector, then look for quid pro quo in other sectors, and finally gain some access and do some more intrusions. Now what they are finding is India is not yielding a single inch. So I think it's also a realization on their part, because 1 year they thought it was like a battle of wills. Let us see who will blink first. They thought, the Indians cannot stay through the winter. They are just bluffing. They are suffering from corona. The economy, Indian economy is weak. We are strong. They thought that they had the advantage of asymmetry, that they are much more powerful and they can impose their will. That did not happen. So with Depsang also, I think they are not going to concede very quickly. It's going to be a long haul. We have to have many more core commander level meetings, even political, diplomatic ones. And we have to bring in the US factor, because always the US factor is a triangle, China, US, India. And we have to apply other forms of pressure on them, ultimately to restore the status quo ante in Depsang. So I think we are prepared for the long haul. And in the meanwhile, we have to be watchful that they are not ingressing on other sectors and some other points along the western sector and the Ladakh sector, because that's where they've got many points from which they could try to intrude and again set up fortifications and again make a demand. This is the perpetual problem of China. We have to be prepared for perpetual problem. There's not going to be any lasting peace. We have to face more crises and more challenges.
Sreeram, taking away from what Colonel Dev said, that it's perhaps for the first time, because you've always seen a belligerent China be adamant and aggressive, especially on the perception of the line of actual control, or the LAC. For the first time ever, perhaps, I don't know whether it has happened in the past. We will have to go back and do some research. But if they are on record in a joint press release saying that they're willing to go back and resolve issues and move back and disengage at the LAC, which they have been very, very adamant about, I think it tells you the larger story of the big breakthrough. I don't know. I think we're being very sort of mellowed in our assessment of this. I think it's a bigger breakthrough than what we initially thought it could be at Pangong.
Niranjan, India has changed. There's no doubt about it. I remember the Prime Minister came in 2014 itself. The Chinese did an early test in Chumar sector. This is before Doklam. And there, we sent so many reinforcements. We outnumbered them by 3 to 4 times. We had more force projection there than the Chinese could imagine. And this happened when Xi Jinping was visiting India and was in Ahmedabad. And PM reportedly asked him, when are your troops going to leave Indian territory? So I think we have been very forthright on this. Under Modi ji, what has happened is we have done plain talking and we have not been wishy-washy. You see, our view has always been the relationship with China can progress only if they stop threatening us and our national security and our territorial integrity. Earlier, under Manmohan Singh and previous governments, what they used to do was, okay, we'll keep aside these differences and we'll do business. And we will promote Chindia, the so-called, integration of the two countries into a single economy and all that. So this was the kind of mentality that was preventing us from taking a strong stance. Now it is security first. You see, India first and security first. So definitely there's a difference in our overall approach to China. And they tested us repeatedly and they thought that they can actually impose their will. So last year, they did not expect that by August we will turn the tables on them and that Indian Army will take over the Kailash range and the top, the hilltops of the south bank of Pangong Tso.
Yeah.
So I think with Depsang also, we need leverage. We have some leverage. We are going to acquire more leverage, and that's how we're going to dislodge them. It's not through plain talks. It is through demonstration of strategic resolve.
Yeah.
And resolve not in one incident or in one theatre. We have to show this on a consistent basis, and that's what I think Modi government has done.
Yeah.
So I think the Chinese have to respect. Chinese are very big players of realpolitik and what we call machtpolitik. Pure hard power matters a lot to them, and they respect strength. And if they sense weakness, if they sense a vulnerability, they'll pounce on you and they'll sit on your head. What Modi has done is reduce our vulnerabilities and show them our strongest face.
Sreeram.
So definitely I think there is a difference. This is a new India, and I think the Chinese are not going to have their way like they used to in the past.